I believe patriotism isn't a dirty word. I believe I can acknowledge the mistakes of the past while also looking to the future and feeling proud of what we have also achieved. For a lot of people in the UK, patriotism has become a dirty word. It's associated with Brexit, far-right nationalism, Britain first, and I want to talk about why that is wrong. I believe patriotism isn't about excusing mistakes from the past, but instead about confronting them so we can move forward. During this conversation, I think what we're really missing is that nationality and patriotism has this really inherently personal element. And for me, that's what I've written about. My nationality is very, very personal. Generations ago, my great-grandmother journeyed to England in search of safe haven. She fled Nazi Germany and journeyed back and forth 5 times, each with a different one of her children, to make sure that her family, all her children could essentially have a safe life. And that's what this nation meant to me, and still means to me. All the while, my great-grandfather stayed in Nazi Germany and continued to report and endeavoured to report the truth while he worked as his time as a journalist. And that, as I try and embark on a career similar to that, is something that I place on my own shoulders and always pledged that I would then write the truth. And skipping forward decades later, I think it's flipped, and patriotism and any talk of being patriotic has become inherently a very dangerous sort of narrative, and I think we need to step away from that. I think no one country is solely good or solely bad. We can do away with the things we've done wrong and then move forward while also celebrating the stuff we've done right. It is that happy medium where patriotism needs to sit in today's society. Skipping forward to where we are now, Labour have tried to move the rhetoric and set the party down a different path. I think Lisa Nandy's comments on Radio 4 recently were very, very interesting, where she said that the party would now endeavour to work for the British people, to put British interests first, and that was going to be their priorities moving forward. Immediately on social media and through various publications, she was completely under fire. And I think it's really problematic that this was our first response, because fair enough, history has given us fair reason to fear extreme patriotism. Eugene O'Neill, the American dramatist, told us that there's no such thing as the future in politics. It's just past mistakes and history reoccurring over and over again. So there is reason to fear that when we've had extreme patriotism, it can quickly go into fascism, racism, and with it all sorts of death and destruction. But this immediate reflex of that's where patriotism will always go and there's no other way to look at it is really problematic and dangerous, and I think we need to completely readdress how we define it. For me, being British or being patriotic about being British doesn't mean I have insane and unstoppable admiration for everything my country is doing and has done in the past. For me, it means that I want to fight for my country and for everyone in that country and within our borders. And despite all its flaws, I am very proud and grateful of my British citizenship. Despite how problematic that may be, it is something that I won't apologise for because of what it means to me and my family. We don't always have to be so immediately fearful of patriotism. It can be this force for good. It can be about holding our governments accountable. As a journalist, I always want to write the truth and have this element of accountability in my writing. It can be a sentiment where we come together instead of fear that we're growing apart. It can be about how we celebrate where we can go and where we've also got it right. What I want to see for us in Britain moving forward is less of a fear around having conversations that we are terrified of, because having those discussions is the only way we're going to progress and move forward, and that's what we've seen in the past. I think we were in such a dangerous position where the left were very far left, the right were very far right, and the people in the middle just felt very forgotten about. What we need to realise is that if we just come a little bit closer to the centre, we will realise that the left and the right, shock horror, have more in common than they want to admit or even realise. Patriotism isn't a dirty word, and we shouldn't be so afraid of having conversations that revolve around what it means to be patriotic, what patriotism means to us today, and that is the only way we are going to move forward, is to be able to be open about these discussions, and that is what I really feel needs to happen in today's society. It doesn't have to be something we're afraid of, it doesn't have to be something that's always gone wrong, and it doesn't need to be far-right nationalistic. There's a way to address it in the middle, and that's where I think our rhetoric and our conversations now really need to sit. This discussion around patriotism is one of them, but there are so many uncomfortable conversations to be had, and I think that's what we need to sit down and do now, and it's the only way we're going to move forward.